Starting.
It's
The
all.
broadcast has begun. Hey guys, it's NarenZade from the Hammer Bros, and I'm here with the Womp for our weekly show, NarenZade The Womp. Say hi, Womp.
What's up, guys?
Good, now get back in the box. Anyway, so we're going to talk about our top 5 infantry models. We made our list separately, and I don't know if we use the exact same criteria, so that'll also be fun and interesting. But I decided that it would be interesting to see what the best infantry is in the Army, while taking the Army itself into consideration. Like, you know, how each piece works with the pieces that surround it. How did you do yours, Womp?
That's kind of the way that I was trying to figure it in. I was trying to think of criteria to fit it in, otherwise this wouldn't really, there's too many infantry choices. Are we going with just core?
I went with
that's
any
what
infantry.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess mine will be core, or I can just think of like infantry as I go. But I'm going with the same way you are. Pretty much how it works with the Army itself, and also risk worth the reward. Like, is the risk of this model worth the reward of what you can get out of it? So the points you put into this versus what you get. Business 101.
That makes sense. Yeah, I only have 2 non-core choices, which I think is kind of strange when I thought about it. But
to be honest, I didn't even make a list. I'm just gonna go off my head. So.
Oh well, then fuck. Then you can just go off the cuff anyway.
Yeah. So.
All right, well, give me your number 5 then. Blow me away. What do you think is the shittiest of the best infantry?
Shittiest of the best infantry?
The shittiest of your top 5 anyway. I guess that's what number 5 would be.
I'm teetering on Warriors of Chaos and Ogres. I kind of have them on similar levels. The Iron Guts mostly just because a lot of people are finding ways to deal with the Iron Gut stars and just how to deal with them in general. But they're so powerful if you don't play them often or if you don't know what to do, that they can tear your shit up. And honestly, just Warriors of Chaos, their stats alone are still amazing, even though no one uses them. They're, as a model itself, they should do better. It's just in the current meta right now, they're not very viable.
Right. I can see that. It's on to me now? Fantastic.
Yeah.
My number 5 is the Witch Elf. I think that the Witch Elf as a core unit, I mean, it's just incredibly powerful. You're rerolling your hits like the vast majority of the time. They're poison. With the Cauldron, I mean, they're bringing the hurt. You have to take something, and as far as their core is concerned, I mean, you're not going to take Spearmen, Sword Elves, or, you know, I mean, you might take their Cav Knights, but I mean, most of the time, you see everybody dropping down one of these big blocks of Witch Elves, and I mean, they bring pain to, you know, every list, and they have 6 support, so can't complain about any of that.
Yeah, watching those when they first hit the scene was crazy. Like, I knew that when I first was reading about them, I knew they were going to do damage, but they do a lot more than I'd ever expect them to do. No, I guess not expect them to do, just they do a lot more than you would expect Strength 3 to do, just because. Yeah. But it's one of those things like high volume numbers, just like how do Skink Swarms kill so many things? It's just because of the amount of rolls.
Yeah, volume of rolls, re-rolling them, and then re-rolling their ones to wound with the Cauldron. Like, there's just so many re-rolls and so many attacks that they're gonna go through.
It's a blender, straight up.
Yeah. How about your number 4?
My number 4? Let me think here. I would say Longbeards. Actually, yeah. I'm trying to think of all the because I just did core. Yeah, I'll go with Longbeards.
Longbeards?
Longbeards and the Dwarf Warrior. I'll keep them in the same level because depending on what point level you're going to upgrade or not. And my reasoning for that is they're such a strong unit in itself if they're not directed magic at, that they're really hard to break first off, they have these special rules that make other units hard to break. And if it's just the Dwarf Warriors, they get these amp ups from the fact that you can charge and get +1 strength, or you can get the shield wall. I mean, those things alone make them awesome, let alone they start out at leadership 9 base. And that freaking kicks ass. They can take a standard. Man, there's just so much good about them. You can have an army of core with just great weapons chopping everything down. I mean, granted, you might as well give them great weapons because they're going to strike last, but if you want to go survivable, they have heavy armor and a shield, and if something charges them, you get shield wall. I mean, they're a brick that a lot of people don't think about, and I think they get underrated a lot more than they should because of the initiative 1.
That's fair. That's fair. So, I'll bring this up again later, but we'll go to my number 4. My number 4 is the Savage Orc Biggin.
Okay.
It's really hard to argue with the Savage Orc Biggin. I mean, Strength 4, first round of combat, Strength 5, Weapon Skill 4, 3 attacks apiece. I mean, with Lucky Shrunken Head, you're looking at 5-up ward save, toughness 4 models. Yeah, I mean, well, the only reason why they're not higher on the list is because of animosity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would you pick those over the Witch Elves?
I would. I would just because of the ability to get the 5-up ward.
Okay.
And the strength 5. I mean, strength 5 is huge because you're hitting. Most of the time, you're going to be hitting something in our current meta. It's going to have +1 armor save. So instead of letting them keep their 1-up, you're giving them that 3-up.
Okay.
And against like most elite infantry, or models like that, they usually only have heavy armor or 4-up, like with Chaos Warriors. So you're making that 4-up instead of a 4-up, 6-up. So I think the high strength is big, and wounding on 3s against toughness 4, and wounding silly elves on 2s is pretty good too.
Yeah. Anything that makes killing elves easier. I guess, would the rerolls kind of make up for the strength in that, or how does that math work? I was trying to think about that. Because I have them placed, like, I was placing them in similar spots.
I think it really depends on I think what you're fighting. Because going from 3s to wound with the Savage or Biggins to 5s to wound is a big deal. And I mean, if you are fighting, 1-up armor save cav or whatever, that's an even bigger deal,
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know the math hammer on that.
Yeah, me neither.
And the 5-up ward also just moves them up a kick. I mean, you're making them demons at that point, and it's pretty good.
I think people underestimate how good a 5-up ward is until you play an army that has all 5-up wards, because it's something. It's just like one of those kicks that you can't negate. You can make them re-roll it if you have the other tricksters started, but I mean, it's really freaking annoying sometimes. It's just like, 5-up ward, 5-up ward, and some people are really good at rolling.
Yeah, a 5-up ward on your core. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that deserves a high spot.
That's kick-ass. Absolutely. I agree with that. I guess we're at number 3 now.
Yes, sir.
Man, I was debating on putting it on the Chaos Chariots, but I feel like the Warriors of Chaos and the Chaos Chariots. Basically, the Chaos Chariots just allow you to take out your core faster, so you can get the juicy special stuff. So that's kind of what's good about them. But I think I'm gonna put the Clan Rats as number 3, and my reasoning is they are the center of Skaven. They're the most annoying units to deal with sometimes, just because of the mere fact that they are volumes upon volumes of just worthless Skaven rats that can actually stay still, and you just have to eat through like a unit of 100 of them. And I might be mixing the Clan Rats up with the slaves, but
I believe which one's slaves then?
Yeah, I'm thinking slaves. I'm totally thinking slaves. But either way, I feel like they are what core is supposed to be. in an army. You know, coming from places like vampire counts and stuff, like I wish I had the slaves opposed to zombies. Like, fuck zombies, slaves are where it's at, and you compare what they do. Like slaves do it so much better.
I think that's an interesting point, mostly because I think zombies. See, it's really hard for me to say what's better in the context of the army. Um, I mean, zombies are going to crumble a lot. I mean, we know that, but at the
Yeah,
same time, you're probably gonna have two magic phases before they see combat, and one invocation is gonna give you 2d6 plus, 4 most likely more zombies. So I mean,
yeah.
there's and
Well,
then while they're in combat, you can keep resing them.
the thing is, though, you can lose combat by 20. You know, it's zombies are
That is the
like
big downside.
it's good if you're against like something like say they have like a unit of sword masters or something where they don't have as many people and they're low toughness and you can like overwhelm them. But then again, you're doing the same thing with the slaves and you don't have the chance of crumble. And another thing with that is just the fact that zombies, every time I've used them, they dissipate more than I could ever raise them back. The crumble rule is really, really harsh on them, and even if you win with fear, you're just getting them on like normal terms to hit, you know? And at that point, it's just like, God, I would rather just have something with an armor save or something, or I'm just not a big fan of zombies, and I always compare them to slaves and utility-wise and what you're using them for, and just the fact that every time I see slaves used in the Skaven armies or games and matches, they always do what they're supposed to do. They always do well. Whereas when I watch undead players, you'll watch them and they'll have like a unit of like 150 zombies set up in like rank-wise, and then all of a sudden it's dissipated to 50, and then they'll raise like 10, and then it dissipates down to like 21, you know? And
Yeah,
by that time, it's like, it's not even really worth it at that point.
yeah, they will certainly dissipate pretty quick. So there is that. But I think the Skaven Slave is definitely a very powerful choice. So I can't argue too much. My number three is actually, and this is what I was referring to when I was talking to your point with the Longbeards. My number three is the Hammer. I
That
mean,
makes,
they're expensive, absolutely, but two attacks, strength 5, or no, strength 6, toughness 4, heavy armor, stubborn. Every one of them can accept challenges. There's a lord in there. They can take massive pointed banners, and on the charge they're strength 7. I mean,
yeah.
they're absolutely incredible. The only unfortunate thing about them is that they are dwarfs, so they're movement 3,
Yeah.
and
Uh, to be
that
honest, I would have put them on my list if I was thinking outside of core, but there was too many. My brain got overwhelmed when I started thinking outside of core. I'm like, man, I already had an idea. Oh crap. Okay, I'm just gonna go with what I got. But yeah, no, they're a fantastic infantry choice. And honestly, I never used them until this edition. I usually liked the Iron Breakers just because I went for a more like brick castle style army, and
mhm.
I would use like small units of them at MSU if I did. But they're so kick-ass in this edition. They're a very, very viable choice.
Yeah, like I mean, I know the Sustainable Center talks about the argument between iron breakers and hammers, but man, to me, there's no argument. I mean, if you have a rune priest in there, you know, strength 7 on the charge, armor piercing.
Hmm.
What I mean, there's not too much that stands up to a big horde of iron break, or I mean, to a
Oh
big
yeah.
horde of hammers.
And
So
then another comment against them would be like they cost a lot, but they really don't cost that much more than a long beard. And you could take them in smaller units since they're stubborn, and just kind of like use them as elite, just like tie up kill crap units if you wanted to. That, or you could just bunch them up in a horde and shove them in the guy's face.
yeah, I mean, and being stubborn 9, it's good. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't.
that's really, really freaking good.
I mean, like you
My
said,
whole idea with them is if you're gonna use them, you kind of got to find a way. like go with a Vanguard type army to get them up in the face. Otherwise, their armor is not that good where they're going to be surviving shit all game. So you need a way to get them into combat fast, which is hard for dwarves. Which is why I usually take them in smaller units and use them as like detachments or like tactical detachments to use like to hit flanks or just annoy, you know. Because when even if you see like a unit of 10 or 20 in the corner, you're going to focus on it, and you know they're going to focus on it, and you don't even have to move it up, and you know that that's a threat in itself. So I always tried to use them that way. But if you could find a way to get them up there fast, I really think that they're a great combat unit.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much that's not afraid to hit a unit of hammers, you know, at weapon skill 5 and say, "Oh yeah, I'll be fine."
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so now we're getting into real important shit. That's your number 2.
Deep shit. Well, since I did core, like I said, mine were. I was deciding between the Witch Elves and the Savage Orc Biggins, and I ended up putting the Savage Orc Biggins as number 2,
Dang.
just because of the animosity. And I was trying to think like how that would work out, just rerolls versus everything else. And I pretty much just put them number 2 because I couldn't decide, and they had animosity. And don't they have technically lower leadership in general?
Yeah, I think they do.
Aren't they like base 7 or 8 or something?
I think there's 7, yeah.
So that would be one of the reasons too, if they get out of General's leadership bubble, and the fact that they do have Frenzy, that could be a problem. But I mean, realistically, they're just everything you've already stated. That's why they're number 2 for me.
Yeah, you love pushing them into stuff. There's not too much to be afraid of.
What was that?
I said, yeah, that's why you gotta love pushing them into stuff. There's not too much to be afraid of, and
yeah, exactly. They're your unit that you have that it's literally just like I can move them wherever I want, not really be too scared unless I get bait charged or something.
So true. All right, my number 2, the White Lions of Sharice.
Oh yeah.
Here, the thing
Is it
is,
because
man,
of the banner?
Oh, you know it is. They have a 3-up armor versus shooting, so that's fantastic. And then on top of that, you put the Banner of the World Dragon in there, and now you're looking at a unit that has 3+ armor save, and then a 2+ ward against magic. And then if you do happen to touch it, it's no big deal. They're only like, you know, weapon skill 5, strength 6 elves.
Yeah.
So there's, I mean, what do you do to the white elf or to the white lion unit that's not gonna cause major losses on your side? You know what I mean?
That's my thing. My brother plays high elves, and I've had to deal with them a lot. And coming from vampire counts, I learned how to deal with them pretty easy. They cannot deal with large units and large volumes of attacks. Just because, like, if you have like a unit of 100 skeletons move into a unit of white lions, even if they're up to 30, the amount of attacks that they're going to do to you isn't going to succeed the amount of damage they're going to do back, because you're only toughness 3. So you have to get into something that you're going to obliterate, you know? And they only have 1 attack, or 2 attacks. It's 1, isn't it? And then the Spore Masters have 2?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, they're not going to be doing enough damage realistically to get rid of all those units, and you're going to be hitting back on 4s, and they don't really have that strong of armor when you're hitting back just in general with general units. So for me, they were always like one of those things that are hard-hitting units, but I found a way to get around it. But it is all about placement, and if you don't get that good matchup, they can destroy some of the best crap in your army. Like if I was Warriors of Chaos and I had to go up against them, I'd be a little nervous about that, just because I wouldn't have anything with that kind of volume to absorb those wounds, you know?
Right. Well, that's the problem. I mean, like they probably don't even want to get into combat. Is the other thing. Mm-hmm. Like they're a bunker for that level 4 or for techless, and you know he's shooting out his bomb spell every turn, or you know using his Book of Hoeth to 2 dice every spell. You know, so you're sitting there and you're like, well, what am I gonna do? Well, I'll shoot at him. Okay, great. I have a 3-up armor. Oh, well, it's my organ gun. Oh, well, you probably put a rune on that, didn't you? Oh, well, 2 board save against it. Like, oh, well, I'll just do. I mean, the only answer really is Dwellers, or Final Trans, or something like that. But I mean, you don't see too much lore of life or metal rocking around, at least in my area. So for me, the White Lions, they just they give the High Elves the bunker that they need, and it's also strong enough to where if you do hit it with something, they still have the easy potential to beat you back and take it to you after you hit them and you've been taking whatever magic they've been throwing and you're down. So
So, would you pick those over Phoenix Guard? Like, how do you weigh those together? Because for me, White Lions are do better against certain armies. Like I was saying, I think things like Skaven or Undead can give them a little bit trouble just in that general
I uh,
reason.
I thought
But
about it.
um, like if I went into a unit of Phoenix Guard with a huge unit of skeletons or like slaves or just anything, they wouldn't do anything to the Phoenix Guard at all. They would still always have their always strike first. They have halberds and they would have the 4+ ward save and if you death start it, that'd be freaking ridiculous.
Right. The thing for me though, at least in from where I'm playing, the thing is like you don't you just don't get in combat with a unit. Oh well, you're sending 100 skeletons at me. Here's my Frost Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then they're dropping their bomb spell, whatever whatever lore they may choose. It could be death. It could be whatever. So the thing is that you normally don't fight them. I was thinking about the Phoenix Guard though, and they almost made it onto the list. I wasn't sure where I wanted to put them, but in the end, the problem I had with them is that they're just strength 4, and in the current meta of 1+ armor saves, I just didn't think it was enough to bounce them onto the list.
Absolutely. I feel like they both have their role to play too, though. That's kind of another reason, like I was saying, based on what your army you're playing, you're going to be more intimidated by one or the other. And being just playing rock paper scissors, because obviously when you're in the game things change. But we're just going off stats right now based on like what cons and pros. I mean, obviously we can look at the battlefield and say, well, things are going to happen that are going to change this outcome. You could say that about anything. But realistically, if I'm just bringing up like what would be the cons towards this that would make me question post to this. And like for the White Lions, I like the fact that they give the punch that is needed for high elves, because otherwise, like you said, they don't really have anything that goes above straight 5.
Yeah, and just strength 6. Oh well, now your monster cap have a 50-50 shot of saving, and I'm wounding them on 2s.
Yeah, exactly.
So, number 1.
I'm gonna go with Witch Elves just because of everything I've seen about them. It's pretty ridiculous watching what they can kill.
You crazy
like,
son of a bitch.
You'll see things go into them, and you're just like, okay, there's no way that they're gonna survive. Their toughness 3 elves. Nope. Because it goes against that thing. Like the way I dealt with strong elf units is because I was able to out-volume them. I was able to outnumber them. But when you have that many rerolls, that many attacks going on, and just with so many rerolls, it's ridiculous. You're just gonna get blended somehow. And let alone they have awesome magic to back it up. Like if that's not scary enough, just think about elf magic backing that up and either bringing down your units or just casting like Occam's Mind Razor on them or something like that. They're just a really scary unit if they're set up right.
The stuff of my nightmares. Yeah, no, I mean, the only reason why I didn't put them higher is Frenzy. I think that Frenzy, as awesome as Frenzy is, giving you the +1 attack, being forced to overrun can be pretty butts. But
yeah, that's a very good point. Actually.
But with the amount of fast cav that Dark Elves play, though, I mean, it's a pretty easy workaround for them. Hence, I think the Dark Elf success. I don't consider the Dark Elf book the most powerful book in the game right now for no reason.
Yeah, they have the strengths where they need it, and like where if Savage Orcs overrunning, they can be put out of place a lot easier than freaking Dark Elves. Like you were saying, they just have so much utility in what they have, like with Fast Cav and the Doomfire Warlocks and stuff. It gets crazy.
Oh man, the moment of truth. My number one best infantry in the game. I'm painting them right now. Skaven Slaves. They're just,
See, I was so debating on putting them on number one, but I'm like, I know that someone's gonna throw shit in my face. So somewhere on the internet, someone's just gonna be like, dude, Witch Elves would demolish them. But I can understand why you would put them as number one completely.
my thing is like I knew that if I didn't put them up here, someone would be like, listen, the only reason why they're not number one is because that stupid guy plays Skaven, and I don't want to, and he doesn't want to say that his book needs a nerf and dirt dirt dirt. Uh, yeah, the Skaven Slaves are probably the best infantry in the game for doing the job that they need to do, but I mean, I think they're needed in the book. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely,
without Skaven
absolutely.
Slaves, they just what do they do? I mean, the best melee unit in the whole book is Strength 4, the Strength 3 wielding Halberd Core. They don't do anything besides have heavy armor and like Toughness 3. Like they don't have a close combat unit, so they need to be able to keep you away so they can win with magic and shooting.
Hey man, you have the Vermin Lord, all right? You
Yeah.
have the Vermin Lord. That choice is way viable. I mean, what is he like, straight 7 or some shit? That's bullshit. That's bullcrap.
Oh, he is. So yeah, I mean the thing is for their point cost and the fact that they're like 9 times out of 10 or better, they're stubborn leadership 10, steadfast leadership 10. There's just no debating that they are the most important unit in a Skaven army. They are the glue that holds the army together in any, in my opinion, competitive list. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
number
and
one.
they're one of those infantry armies that even though like baseline stats aren't very good, what they do together, you never really watch a Skaven army and you're like, well, the Skaven slaves failed. Even if a whole unit of like 150 die, you feel like they did their job. It's one of those things they're always gonna do what they're meant to do, and they do it well.
Yep. So that is why I consider them number one. So, Womp, I'm going to surprise you with something right now. So,
I'm gonna pee myself. I'm scared.
probably. So we're gonna end this call, and I'm thinking, do you have some time?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, you want to talk about some new Warriors of Chaos, Demon, and Beastmen releases?
yeah, sure.
Fantastic. We'll start another hangout in a minute, guys. I'll see you there.